So today we're doing something a little bit different from what I've done before, and cautiously, very cautiously, looking at creating a portfolio of blockchain game company tokens. So as I always say at the start of these videos, this is not for investment purposes. Do not follow this for investment purposes. This is the outworking of my intellectual curiosity in terms of blockchain game sector, which is something I know a lot about because I write about it every day. So this is kind of interesting for me. And the point of tokens, obviously, the point of blockchain is that these tokens have some sort of value. You could, bad analogy, I suppose, in terms of the utility securities argument, you could look at the kind of tokens of these blockchain game projects as some sort of analogy of a stock. They're not a stock because not give you no ownership of the company, but it's an analogous to that, I suppose. So taking that approach, I've started to buy in very small amounts some tokens just on the open market. I've not been involved in any ICOs, but this is just kind of as far as I've got. So these are not all the coins I have. I have quite a lot of other coins, but they're not necessarily related to the games industry. So this channel is all about game tokens. So thus, this is what I'm looking at now, and this is just what I've been looking at over the last really few months. So as I say, I'm not investing in this. I'm not expecting to make money. I'm quite happy to lose all my money in this, and the amount of money that is involved is not actually very much. So at the moment I'm spending about $50 a month buying tokens. So at the moment this kind of portfolio is about $300 worth. So I do not expect to become a millionaire off the back of this. This is just for intellectual curiosity. So, but this is kind of this is as far as I've got in terms of building a portfolio. Is it a balanced portfolio? Well, probably not. Most of the portfolios we build are not terribly balanced, and there's not really enough variety in here. And if you were building a portfolio, you wouldn't build a portfolio in the blockchain game sector because it's just too narrow. So take all that with a pinch of salt. But this, for the purposes of this video, this is what I'm doing. So let's have a look and see what I've got. So we can see here, here are the tokens that I have. So the largest ownership I have in terms of token value is Wax. We'll go through these, at least some of these in a bit more detail. So Wax is the biggest. So it's basically Wax Mana. So actually going to, like, Wax is a game item marketplace created from a company called OP Skins, which was a non-blockchain skin trading site. So a Counter-Strike Go skin trading site, basically a randomized skin gambling site where you would buy a key to a case. You'd open up a case, you'd get these what are called skins, basically kind of decals that would go over guns. You could use them in games, in this case Counter-Strike Go, but they just had a monetary value, really. They're very hardcore trading. OP Skins have kind of taken their platform to the blockchain. They have wider plans for it in terms of Wax being a totally decentralized marketplace. That's not there at the moment, but so there's this Wax token. We'll have a look at that. And there's this Mana token. So Mana is the token for Decentraland. Decentraland was one of the early blockchain. It's kind of not necessarily a pure game project, although becoming more game focused. Originally what it's set up to be is a bit like Second Life, the kind of online world kind of got quite a lot of publicity 10-15 years ago. So Decentraland is a similar kind of virtual world living on the blockchain. What you can do is you can buy parcels of land. Don't go into too much detail, but Mana is the ERC20 token, and then land is an ERC721 token, a collectible token. But you can build things on there. Bizarrely, Decentraland is focused as a VR project as well. But the interesting thing here is it's starting to see integration with some game projects. So that's just kind of why it's kind of becoming a game platform. So here we have Enjin, the second one. So all these three are roughly, broadly, kind of the same. Wax is a bit more, but roughly the same. So Enjin, again, been around for quite a long time in the blockchain gaming world. They come out of actually been around for a while as a company, nothing to do with blockchain. Before they were building servers for Minecraft communities and other online game communities. That's kind of their background in terms of their kind of tech services associated with the game space. And They have the ICO 2017 have a thing called Enjin Coin, which is basically their internal currency, and they're kind of building a kind of like a game platform, like a tool set. Partly that is allowing other blockchain games to use standards and use their technology, which allows them to create items. And there's some nice, interesting kind of technological things they're doing there. So everything called an ERC 1155 standard, which lets you build ERC20 and ERC721 tokens, combine those in terms of a trading thing. And another interesting thing, because it's on their platform, is that any tokens that you don't want, you can kind of melt them back again for the original Enjin Coin value. So they've quite an interesting kind of inherent economy within their system, although it is kind of a kind of closed system in that kind of thing. And there's no games actually live with Enjin Coin at the moment. So interesting approach. So those are the three I've got the most of. Coming back to kind of smaller ones, a bit more speculative. So RCC, that is Reality Clash Coin. So Reality Clash is a mobile game coming out. It's just entered beta. And Reality Clash Coin, actually their gold coin is the token that we used for buying limited edition weapons in the game. So the weapons don't have any gameplay advantage, but they just look different. So you have ones with Bitcoin skins or Dogecoin skins or Ethereum skins. And then limited edition, obviously the whole point about blockchain is a little bit about kind of item scarcity. So that's kind of what Rally Clash Coin is about. That game's going live. You need Rally Clash Coin to partake in the marketplace and buy and sell these items, which is they don't change the gameplay. Gameplay is bizarrely a location-based AR/VR first-person shooter, so quite a lot going on there in terms of a mobile game. But this is the token behind that. Next up we have RFR, so Referium ICO'd at the start of 2018, and it's kind of a community play. So at the moment it's just gaining scale. It's got over 500,000 registered users. Most of those are not using the blockchain elements of it. I think only about 10% have used the wallet. But this is the token that you are rewarded with for doing stuff in the game, like watching videos and downloading games and just participating. Not really terribly clear at the moment the wider value of what that will be. Interesting though, Referium has has value because it has a large audience at the moment, which most blockchain projects don't have. Theta, this is a peer-to-peer video content delivery system. It's running its own blockchain, very kind of technically aware kind of group of people behind it. They've actually raised quite a lot of VC money out of Silicon Valley, and basically they're looking to do game streaming kind of stuff, because that's a big usage of video at the moment. That could be used for any video on demand kind of system, and they're, as I say, kind of building their own blockchain, and kind of interesting. And then the first one here is First, which is called First Blood. That's I'm actually ICO'd in 2016, so been going a while. Not really have a lot of traction, but they are an esports based project looking to kind of help the esports market, which is notoriously fragmented in terms of business model. So there's an awful lot of companies looking at esports. This is First Blood, just one of those. So this is quite speculative. I've not got very much of First Blood tokens, but that's kind of how I've built up my portfolio. As I say, it's not. I've looked at this in the approach I've had is looking at companies that I think either are have kind of forward momentum, and we'll look at Wax Manor and Enjin in a bit more detail in a minute, or other ones that I think have are in interesting kind of marketplaces where they're doing something different, particularly their kind of Theta. So as I say, very kind of small amounts of money being invested in these at the moment, but I think it's kind of interesting to kind of look over time. Obviously at the moment it's not very interesting, but look over time, see how these things change. As I say, I've not been involved in any ICOs for these tokens. So these are all just bought on the open market. Personally, I don't really go in for a lot of work on exchanges, so a lot of these are bought through decentralized exchanges like Bancor is one I use a lot. Obviously that's fine for buying stuff, not necessarily so much liquidity, kind of selling stuff out. So at some point I probably will have to go into exchanges if I want to sell any of these off. But at the moment this is not a selling scenario. I imagine I'll be keeping these tokens for at least the next 6 months to a year. As I say, this is not for investment. I do not expect to be rich off these. Do not follow me blindly. But I think it's kind of interesting to, over time, do videos talking about this kind of stuff. So that's the headline of the portfolio. Now let's spend a bit of time going and looking at the kind of three biggest components, which are Wax, Mana, and Enjin Coin. Okay, so let's look at Wax, get a bit more detail about what's going on with that token. So here we are looking at CoinGecko, just happens to be the website I tend to use to look at token value. So, okay, so if we look at the chart of what's been going on in terms of Wax price, so this is Wax price against the dollar. So it's very typical kind of trajectory, I guess we can see here. So was available at least by CoinGecko's data early January. So early January 2018, obviously, and just about the point where the crypto currency valuation bubble was peaking and exploding. So we see a very typical explosion here. So at one point it was priced at $2.77, the Wax token, and we see, as we see lots of things, a rapid collapse down here to 14.5 cents. May a little bit of a kind of jump up to 40 cents there, then a decline right down. So but we can see here that if we look what's been happening kind of more recently, so if we look at 90 days, we get to see something a little bit different. So over the summer we've reached a kind of a nadir of what's that? That's about it's about 6 US cents down there, and now we are at just over 10 cents. So we've seen a good trajectory. Now let's be careful here, because we've all read psychology books, particularly psychology books about investing, and it's all very clear to see like a nice graph like this and go, oh yes, well, everything's on the up and up, and because everything, at least for the last 30 days, over the last 30 days, dropped 62%. That all looks fine, and talking about how the Wax project is going, we can kind of look at the momentum of that project and put two and two together and say this is why the token price has gone up. For me, that would be dangerous and somewhat naive. But that said, the reason I have been buying Wax tokens is I think Wax is an interesting project. So it's interesting, as I said before, that it's come out of an existing project. So OP Skins was a successful trading platform, non-blockchain. And so it already had an existing audience, a large audience. It was the biggest, what they call secondary market of Counter-Strike skins. So it has an audience of people who already know its user interface, or already spend money in the system, already can sometimes make money, sometimes lose money, I suppose. But people are aware of the system. Currently, OP Skins is the first implementation of Wax, which is actually a blockchain running. It's a fork of the EOS blockchain. Which is one of the many, which is actually one of the big blockchains out there, so designed for fast transaction speed. But if you go into OP Skins at the moment, you can use the Wax system. You can actually import Wax tokens into your OP Skins effectively wallet. But equally, you can just use your credit card in OP Skin, so you don't have to use any blockchain token stuff. So it's not like all the activity which is happening in Wax at the moment is being fueled by the Wax token. In fact, obviously, I think the vast majority is not. The vast majority is just being used by fiat currency. People are spending their credit cards, credit card money. So it's easy to see because there's now quite a lot of activity happening in the Wax. On the Wax platform, that is happening through the Wax token. I don't believe that's the case. I think there's other. This is a more speculative increase at the moment. I think. So we need to be a bit careful about that. But we can kind of see, in terms of where we are at the moment, it may not be the same next month when we look at the portfolio. What's happening there? But over, the last 30 days, a very strong uplift. Okay, but remember, all-time high down 96%. So let's just bear that in mind. Obviously, that's the same for most blockchain tokens. So, and the other thing to point out is market cap's actually fairly small. So saying here less than $5 million. if we look at the Wax homepage, just always worth having a quick look at. So we can see here what's going on. It announces, you know, they've got a new partnership with Terra Virtua, which is a VR blockchain-based project. This is kind of interesting stuff. So Express Trade, this is actually the Express Trade thing is actually the blockchain part of Wax. So what I like about the OP Skins Wax project is they're quite clever on how the blockchain works, but they don't. For most users, it doesn't really matter. Most users don't know they're using blockchain. Most users don't have to use Wax token. The terminology they're using is this Express Trade, which is being underpinned by a blockchain, but most people don't know it. And you've got this Explorer, so this is the most interesting, I guess, bit of it. You can see what's happening on the blockchain by using this Explorer. So, don't really want to spend too much time on here. I'm just whack, whack, whack. There's William Quigley, CEO. Anyway, some blog stuff. So let's have a quick look at the blog. Actually, one blog thing. So this is the thing I was interested in. What we're going to look at here. So it's interesting here that they're giving some stats. So the Wax blockchain platform, they're calling it beta at the moment. So it's processing 7,200 blocks an hour. So that's a lot. I mean, it's kind of what you expect with an EOS-based system, you know, compared to, you know, Bitcoin does a block every 10 minutes. Ethereum block every 7-10 seconds, something like that. Blockchain, the beta Wax blockchain platform has processed more than 22 million transactions for Vigo. Vigo is this Wax's version of Counter-Strike skins. I won't go into detail. If you look at my YouTube, if you look on YouTube, there's quite a lot of stuff that tells you about Vigo, which is basically a gambling loot box system. But we can see here there's this blocktivity thing, which basically can supposedly prove to us what's going on with Wax. So blocktivity is basically it's a third-party data website looking at the transactions on blockchain. So nothing to do with Wax, I don't think. I have no reason to believe it is lying in any way. Anyway, so it basically just looks to see a blockchain activity matrix here. So we can see here it has Wax as the most active blockchain. So Wax at the moment, which is basically just people opening loot boxes, spending $2.50 to buy a key to open a loot box to see if they're going to win more than $2.50 in terms of items in there. It's very gambling kind of focused activity. Excuse me. This is the activity. Over 7 days, the record is over 5 million transactions. They got the market cap here of $100 million. So I don't quite know what that is. So Wax itself is a bigger, more active blockchain than EOS, which it's based on. It's a fork, and then we have can't remember what these other ones are. BitShares, and then we have Tron, then we have Steam, then we have the ones we know, Bitcoin, Ethereum. You know, you can see that in a nice little graph here. So the most active blockchains, 7-day average. So Wax is 32%, EOS 28%, BitShares 14%. Now, from a investment point of view, interesting here. If you look at the market caps, now there's no reason that market caps should be related to activity, really, because obviously it depends on the value of the activity. But we can see here Wax, although it's only 1.4% in terms of market cap, even though it's much more active. So you might intellectually, I might say that there's probably some upward pressure on the token price, because there speculators at least will see this kind of data and think it's a mispriced asset. And whether that is or not, I don't really know, because as I say, the value really matters. The value really depends on what transactions you're doing. And at the moment, I don't know how much bigger Wax can get, because there's only a certain type of person who'll do this gambling. So the reason, but saying that, going back to the Wax website and looking at the blogs, there's some interesting stuff they're doing. So they're doing a lot of stuff with streaming and Twitch, which, if you know anything about games, is pretty big in terms of audience and people playing games and streaming games and people watching them. So now you can use this Wax Express Trade, the blockchain element of it, to do donations. They're also doing this thing called stickers. So stickers are this kind of ephemeral aesthetic item that you can give away and trade. So this is kind of interesting in the sense that this is going beyond. So that this is what a sticker might look like. for a streamer. So this is a limited edition wax streamer for this guy. So he can give these away. These might have some sort of value. So don't need to get into too much detail. Just wax has a momentum in terms of activity and in terms of what it's trying to do. It's trying to do lots of different things. It's even doing crazy stuff like it has a proposal that it will allow you to sell limited edition real life items like sneakers and stuff by holding them in a bonded warehouse, and you can trade that kind of stuff. So they have big plans. So that's the reason that I have bought at least some tokens in wax, and will probably continue to do so. As I say, I do not expect to be. I really don't expect, this price here to get back to anything like the max. Obviously, the max here is when the whole cryptocurrency thing was exploding. So what is the value of a wax token? What's the market cap of wax as a company? I literally have no idea. So I don't care about that really from a financial point of view. I'm just more interested in the sense that I think at least the company's doing something and heading in the right direction, which a lot of blockchain companies are at the moment. So that is our analysis of wax. Next up, we'll have a look at Mana. Okay, so next up we'll look at Decentraland. So the Decentraland token is called Mana. Again, looking at CoinGecko. And we can see here a different sort of trajectory from most blockchain tokens, and certainly what we saw with wax. So partly that's because Decentraland's been around for a long time. So if you look here at the starting was actually October 2017. So it's been around relatively long period of time. It started out kind of very small. So Decentraland is much more community led. It's not a big kind of corporate kind of thing. They're a fairly small team from Argentina, but they have very strong relationships into the blockchain world at a deep community level, and they've really engaged with creators. That saying, we still see a trajectory, obviously, in kind of the start of January this year, where we see a peak. So at that point, Mana was worth 25 cents, US cents. We see a drop off. So down here it's down to 7 cents. Down here it's down to just under 7 cents. But we don't see the massive drop off, and then we can kind of see something interesting. Again, we have to be careful not to be naive and look at what's going on in terms of the project news, and then try and feed that back into kind of what's going on with the token, because we have no idea really what's going on with a lot of these tokens. We have no idea if founders are selling. We have no idea if people involved in the ICO, if they're keeping or selling, or there's a deeper kind of speculative kind of flow going on here. But we can definitely say there's something different going on here. This is not a graph that you often see with a blockchain token in terms of its US dollar pricing. What we can say, there was a peak here, a peak here. There's weird kind of quite big volatility. Dropped, so here we're down to 6-7 cents. Here actually we're down a bit lower, aren't we? So just under 6 cents here. But again, if we go to 90-day, we can start to see, we hit a nadir here down in 12th of September, or 5 cents, and now there's quite a strong, and now we have a very strong up peak. Again, we've seen this before, that we've seen these kind of big spikes up and then a collapse down. So let's not get too carried away. So 30 days we're up 15%. Market cap again. Excuse me. Get it. So not massive. 100 million, over $100 million. That's pretty good. I have to say, Decentraland is not live as a consumer product. It's live for developers, so developers can buy land and go in and start making stuff. And there's been some quite interesting videos of people making these environments, making kind of buildings, making just kind of the usual stuff that developers make within Decentraland. So that's kind of interesting. And from that point of view, Mana as a token is interesting, because if you want to buy this land within Decentraland, you have to use the token. So there is already utility in here, which is likely to be driving pricing. And I do think it's interesting that we have seen suddenly now quite a lot of news about Decentraland, and it's being kind of portrayed in that in the kind of slightly hypey way that Second Life was all those years ago. And in this case, you can make real money off it. So it's that kind of dangerous speculative bubble thing. You can kind of see here, even the BBC. So this is from a while ago. This is from August. The virtual land selling for millions. BBC, fairly reputable news organisation, as much as any of these are these days. Here they go. Investors spending real money to buy land in a city that only exists in virtual reality. Blah blah blah. So I think there's some volatility from that kind of stuff. But there's other interesting stuff going on here, which I think is kind of fairly serious, although very little volume at the moment. So this was just a couple of days ago. So Decentraland, you can now have mortgages. So Decentraland has partnered with RNC, which is a blockchain-based financing company, also Argentinian, as Decentraland is. So now you can buy this land via a mortgage. So you have to fill in a brief application. You have to put down 10% of the total value in mana. Then that goes into a system. That goes into RCN's DApp, and then someone else can then lend you the money to buy this land, and then you can pay them back as a mortgage. So that's kind of interesting, and that kind of shows, obviously they wouldn't be doing this if they felt that there weren't users interested. And obviously, if you can start doing this stuff, mortgages obviously increase the price of stuff because people don't have to have the money there and then. They can it kind of acts a bit like hopefully like a low price credit card. So if we go here, let's see if this works. Yeah, it does. So this is the RCN DApp. So you can see here there is a Decentraland mortgage here. So you can see here there was the wallet address, 90-day annual interest, 20 to 30%. So in mana cost, the mana is going to cost them this. You'd have to lend that, and then you would get 9,405 mana you would lend out, and then you get 9,875.25 back. So that's how the mortgage worked. So if I had that amount of mana, which I don't, I could lend that back within 90 days, get that much back. So that'd be interesting. Quick look at Decentraland website. The one thing I'm not sure about Decentraland is I don't understand why it's so VR focused. VR is kind of a technology that is struggling. I know people who are really into VR are really into VR. I'm not one of them. So I don't know whether actually when Decentraland goes live as a consumer product that it'll just be stymied because not enough people have VR headsets for there to be a large enough audience. I imagine they will have to then go, well, here's the VR thing's better, but you can use it not doing VR if you want to. So the final token we're looking at is Enjin. Starting again with CoinGecko. So this is a much more traditional sort of US dollar pricing trajectory. So Enjin again started a little bit earlier than some, ICO'd last year, 2017. So CoinGecko is picking up 10th November. Typical, so January peak, 6th of January peak, and an Enjin coin was worth 46 US cents. Much more like wax, falls away, bobbles around, kind of following the Ethereum trajectory, I guess, and then we're kind of falling right away, and then we've kind of hit some sort of kind of plateau down here. So 90 days, let's have a look at that one. Actually, even within 90 days, we're starting to see, a bit of a pickup, and then still over 30 days. It's not great. It's not as positive as wax or mana, but yeah, and you got this kind of interesting, very interesting kind of big peak here. So I think it's up about 60% on a day. A lot of trading volume going on down here. Again, we can't say. I don't know why that was the case. Did it go on an exchange? Did they release a whole bunch of coins to someone who sold them all off? But I don't know what's going on there to raise that price. But it's kind of, it is higher than it was before, but not by much. It's fallen back down again. So different sort of trajectory. But let's have a quick look at the website. Actually, let's look at market cap. Again, it's kind of smaller than Decentraland, so it's 42 million. And again, since it's all-time high, down the kind of typical 90% range. So, is what it is in those kind of things. Quick look at the website. So building blockchain-based games, so different in that sense from Decentraland and Wax. This is much more talking to developers and then using the tech directly. It's not a platform really in that way. It's more like an underlying technology solution, like an SDK almost. It runs its own blockchain, doing its own side chains kind of scenario. So throws in a few kind of taglines, esports. Of course, everyone's doing esports. I don't know what that means. Enjin, technologically quite savvy as a company. So they were involved in ERC 721, which is actually kind of, I think, three people kind of claim ownership of. Most people kind of suggest it was mainly the CryptoKitties guys, but someone from Enjin was also kind of involved as well. But they come up with this new token, ERC 1155, which no one's adopting apart from people using Enjin kind of tech at the moment, although there is kind of grudging support for it. There are kind of similar things. I think it's the ERC 998, which is kind of doing a similar sort of thing. I don't quite know how these standards get accepted, but Enjin is interesting that they are kind of pushing the tech side of things. As I say, their history is doing setting up servers, community servers for games like Minecraft in particular, but other PC MMOs. So they're quite good at building tech. So they kind of do everything's modular, easy to integrate SDKs. These guys know how to build SDKs. They know how to onboard people. And so talk about here their Affinity, their sidechain scaling network. So Enjin is working on well, I guess it's kind of, we would say the main blockchain is Ethereum. It's running off of. So other things they're doing, because they're quite tech aware, they're doing an Explorer. So we looked at that with Wax. Explorers are quite useful because it gives you a GUI to what's going on the blockchain. They also have a wallet, so it's a mobile wallet. We can look at that in a bit more detail. Affinity, this is their network, like a bit like a Loom or a Plasma Cache or a Lightning network for Bitcoin. Good at SDK, so supporting Unreal, Unity, Godot, and Lumberyard, which are game engines. Kind of the big ones, more SDKs. So they've got their own token, they've got their own wallet that's been around for quite a while. And they're starting to put in support now, not just for tokens like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, the usuals. They're also now making it good to handle these kind of collectibles, certainly ERC 721s, integrating with games for that, which is kind of useful because most wallets don't handle tokens very well. Available on iOS and Android. So Enjin is, I think, interesting in terms of the game space. They're very game focused in a way that Decentraland and Wax aren't. They're much more integrated into the game kind of ecosystem of developers. And they kind of have a first mover advantage. There's people kind of trying to do the same thing as them, but they've definitely got the kind of momentum in there, which is why I kind of find them interesting. And they've definitely got the blockchain earlier than most. But in fact, kind of all the three projects that I'm most interested in terms of the tokens, in terms of this kind of portfolio approach at the moment, Wax, Decentraland, and Enjin all got in there earlier than a lot of them. So they were kind of riding the 2017 ICO funding kind of bubble. So all of them have enough money. All of them raised over $30 million. So they all have funding enough to take them through to where they need to be. Obviously, a big issue with blockchain stuff at the moment is funding, but those companies are funded well enough that they should have enough runway to at least see kind of what's going on. So that's kind of why I like them. As I say, this is an intellectual exercise. I will not be retiring on the basis of my portfolio, but I think it's interesting to talk about this kind of stuff, and I think it's more interesting every couple of months to come back to the portfolio, see what's been added, see if anything's been taken away, and see what the trajectory is. So thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you're interested in the blockchain game sector in any way. As I say, don't take it as investment advice, please. But if you want to get your, find out more about kind of what's going on in this space, which is, to me at least, fascinating. I hope you come along for the ride. Please do subscribe, and hope to see you again soon.